So in this panel, we want to stop and take a moment and talk about the other side of the transaction. Mission accomplished, winning over the real estate agents. We have 2 agents with us and 1 loan officer, and I'd like to invite them up right now. Sam Ruben, whom you may have seen before, Karmen Pincus, and Matt Burkhead. Thank you so much. All right, you're good. Don't fall over. Anybody ever worry about that when you walk up on steps? Like, I'm just gonna trip and hit it? Oh man, I do all the time. All right, welcome everybody. How you doing?
Good.
Good. We're having a conversation. Yes, AIME was like, make sure you have a conversation and then they can just watch it, like TV. That's really what we're doing. It's great. Does that make you more nervous, Karmen? Okay, good. Perfect. So why don't we take a second, as we've done, and walk through and just introduce yourself, your connection with the veteran community, and then we'll just dive into some questions and have a little dialogue. How about that? Sam, you want to go first?
Hi everyone, my name is Sam Ruben. I am located in Dallas, Texas. I am an Army veteran, retired after 13 years, and that's how I'm involved in the veteran community and part of VETA as of now.
Perfect, wonderful. Karmen?
I'm Karmen Pincus. I am a real estate broker just north of Seattle, Washington. I am a veteran military spouse, actually former. My husband just retired from the military in January, so I focus on military relocation, so I work with military day in and day out, and I serve on a couple different boards for veterans outreach programs in my county.
And you have Highland cattle.
Oh, I have Highland cattle, yeah.
That's what she loves to talk about the most. And Matt?
Yeah, my name is Matt Burkhead, and I'm a loan officer with Nexa Mortgage. I served 4 years in the Marine Corps with 1st Tank Battalion, and then I've been a mortgage broker for about 5 or 6 years now.
Absolutely. And one of our awesome range safety instructors or RSOs at summer camp, so perfect. Let's talk a little bit about this. Now, when we had a pre-game dialogue, it was, what in the world are we going to talk about on a stage like this? But I want to toss it out there, and Sam, I'm going to go to you first, and let's ask a question. When you're dealing with veteran buyers or active duty buyers, right? Let's put them in VA eligible consumers. What is it that you're looking for in your partnership with lending to make that transaction actually happen?
Great question. So when it comes to my lending partners, I want to make sure that they are aware of all of the VA guidelines. If they don't go by all of the VA guidelines, they need to, and they're not able to help the buyer, I want them to be upfront about that situation. Just knowing the VA guidelines is a big one. And not putting their lender overlays onto the client because they can't do the loan themselves. Communication is big. Communication, VA guidelines, those are the top 2.
I hear just this repetitive like theme in everything we talk about, the VA guidelines and communication, a communication structure. Matt, when we talked about it, you talked about communication, but kind of from the other position. Do you want to go into that a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's learning what the agent wants in terms of communication. Some agents want, constant everyday or every other day check-ins. Others want once a week or maybe even less than that. So I think finding what works for them and what works for you as well, because it's a team, and moving forward with that will make the transaction smooth for everybody.
Okay, knowing the communication. Karmen, what does that look like for you? Communication and expectation.
So if I'm representing a buyer, the biggest thing for me is that the person understands guidelines, or at least knows where to go to find information if they don't know, and that they're willing to ask questions. I don't like finding out at the 11th hour that we could have changed something 2 weeks ago with the file, and now here we are sitting and scrambling. I don't need the constant communication that some agents do, but I do need to know where we're at in the process. I don't want to have to reach out, always be the one reaching out. And if the listing agent has to be the one to reach out, we failed already.
Gotcha. Let's talk about communication as a broad term. Is it text? Is it email? Is it phone call? What is it? What does it entail? What does it look like? I'd like to go a little deeper, like a takeaway here. Karmen, I think in the conversation we had preparing for this, you even mentioned I need to be trained on everything. Like I got told by everybody when the loan limits went up, but I didn't get told by everybody when 22-26-11 circular happened, and now the veteran can pay for the wood destroying organisms inspection, right? So talk about that training. What are you looking for? What do you want to hear from your partners?
So if you're seeking out a real estate agent to help build your military and veteran business, I really don't want 25 copies of your mortgage minute. That is a copy and paste for every company. It's just not helpful to me. If you want to build that military network up, that veteran network up, tell me what's happening with the circulars. Like when something else comes out, tell me about it. And you can do it in video if you want, as long as it has subtitles, because I'm 38 going on 88 and I'm not gonna watch that Bum Bum video, but if it has subtitles, we're good.
Subtitles are key. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your takeaway from Karmen Pincus. Subtitle your videos. Thank you very much. All right. I agree with that, actually. I rarely have audio on my phone at this point. Okay, iPhone users, go get the app called Captions. We teach this in Vetted VA. It's a great way to respond. Captions, it's free for like the first 60 seconds, but it's worth it. Pay for it. It auto captions your videos. You film it, it captions, you send it, you're done. It's fantastic. All right. There's another takeaway for you. Sam, what about you? Like what kind of, in that communication structure, how do they do it well? What does it look like?
So when it comes to communication in a transaction with the agent and the buyer, our job is securing the contract to get the deal, to the closing table. Your job is to focus on the financing and make sure that the financing clears us to close on time. So communication to me would be, okay, has the file been into underwriting? Has the appraisal been ordered? I need a due back date of the appraisal, so that way when the date comes, if it's not there, I can, reach out to whomever we need to reach out to find out why it's not in. If there's any issues that has come up during the underwriting process that the buyer is not getting the lender, and I might need to, give a little push, or go get the paperwork myself. Just doing what you need to do to make sure that the file closes on time.
So how does somebody, you are well educated, you read the guidelines, Sam, you've done much of that. When a loan officer is working with you, you understand the guidelines. How do you want them to back up their source information? How are they supposed to gain your trust when you already know that much?
So I try not to step on people's toes. Try. It's hard though. If they are unaware of a guideline that's allowed, I'll ask the question, well, can't we do this? And they'll come back with, no, we can't. And then of course I have to be like, all right, well, here is XYZ, and it says that this can be done, so please ask your underwriter if this can be done. And then they'll come back and be like, oh, the underwriter said, yes, we can. And it's, I don't want to tell them how to do, something, but if it's something that they're unaware of, I'll definitely submit the information to them and then have them go back to their people to make sure that we can get it done.
That would be embarrassing. We're glad I haven't been on that side of that conversation. Matt, thanks to the VTB we collect on you, you have a high level of purchase transactions. You've worked with a lot of agents. What has been one of the keys that you've learned in that to gain trust, to earn trust?
So as far as sourcing, whatever I say, I try to source with the handbook. It's readily available. You can look it up. Everyone has access to it. And so I think that's really important, is to show your work, because if it's an agent that you haven't worked with before, they may have someone telling them one thing and you're telling them something different, right? And so going to the handbook and, showing where you're getting that information from can really gain their trust, and they can see, okay, I don't need to take this person's word for it, I can actually see it myself.
Anything to add, Karmen?
What was the question?
Oh, it's good. I think we covered it. I feel like, here's something we didn't talk about doing. I'd like to try a hot wash real quick on or an after action review on some of your worst scenarios and then some of your best scenarios and what could have changed to either make it better or if it was a great scenario, what made it great. So I'm gonna give everybody like just a couple seconds to think about that. Let's come up with a really bad one. And what did we learn? So we're gonna do a takeaway. And Matt, you're ready first.
Okay. So probably the worst scenarios are just when underwriters are not clear on the guidelines or they're interpreting it a little bit differently. And I think the best solution is that, and really a great resource for anything loan related is to go to the RLC, right? You can call them, and even better, you can email the RLC and get it in writing from them based off their interpretation, and then you can take that to the underwriter and they're gonna go based off what the RLC says.
How do you use that then to communicate with your agent partners? Like, here's what I did, so they understand what happened, or do you? Maybe I'm asking the wrong question.
Yeah, no, you can definitely communicate with the agent. I think if there's an issue on a loan, it's best to tackle that and start to find solutions early in the process. You definitely don't want to wait until the very end because the RLC does take time to get back to you, and you have to communicate with the underwriter. So definitely leaving time and communicating with everyone involved will make things go a lot smoother, even when there are issues.
Absolutely. Karmen, hearing that, is that similar to yours, or what would be your worst case scenario?
So the Seattle area, it has always been pretty competitive market. These last year and a half, 2 years were pretty difficult, especially for VA buyers. A lot of stigma still around VA loan in that area. And when you're offering $150,000, $200,000 over list price, and those NOVs are coming in, and Tidewater's being issued, being able to understand the reconsideration of value is kind of paramount to this process, and working with a loan officer that is willing to do that work and help get all of that paperwork ready to submit, and having that relationship with the RLC so that you can bite that value, get it back up, and protect the veterans' home ownership benefit. If they don't know how to do that, or they're not willing to do that, sometimes you don't know up front. So be willing to put that work in.
Give me just give a quick breakdown on the ROV.
So if Tidewater's issued and you get the chance to fight, but the appraiser still is saying, nope, we're not going to do it, you can pull your own comps. The veteran can write a letter explaining the hardship that it's going to cause, and you're going to send all of that information back to the RLC, and they're going to reevaluate. And many times they will come up and potentially even, or most of the time, my experience is they've been meeting that offer price, even that escalated price. As long as you really detail it out and explain it, they'll do it. But you have to do the work. You have to take the time.
It's one of those benefits of the VA loan that
Yes.
is unique to many different loan types, right? But like you just said, you mentioned something. I think it's having the veteran write the letter.
Yeah.
Here's the hardship I'm going to face, because the VA is there to support, not to cause harm.
Correct.
Gotcha. Sam, what about yourself?
Actually, I just had a recent scenario where one lender couldn't get the deal done because the buyers had like 3 late payments in the last 12 months. And we were able to go with another lender that the underwriter, was willing to take letter of explanations. The client had medical issues over the past year, deaths in the family and stuff like that. Prior to that, their, credit was great, and they did the letter. Underwriter was like, oh yes, I'll take this. And the veteran themselves actually called the RLC to ask them, was that a requirement that there's no lates? And they said, no, if you have a reason behind it, underwriter's willing to sign off, then you can move forward. And we got them closed, so.
That's fantastic. What you just said there is really important to understand. The veteran has access to the RLC. And the veteran should call the RLC if they want to validate, verify, and backstop the information they're getting.
Yeah.
Matt, has that ever come back to haunt you when the veteran double checks you, or the VA eligible buyer does?
I have not had that happen yet, but I'm sure it will happen at some point.
Yeah. So you want to be clear on all the expectations. All right, let's talk about one of the positive outcomes. And I'm going to flip it back, Sam. I'm going to go to you on this one, on a positive outcome. And how did that benefit your relationship with that lending partner?
Well, the positive outcome when he told my clients he could get it done.
Oh, sure.
It worked because I didn't trust them. Like, I didn't know this man. They found him, you know, through a group, and I was like, and I did have to kind of give him some guidelines throughout the process too, so I was really anxious during the entire deal. But the relationship was built because he gave me a promise and he kept it. Otherwise, my clients would have been homeless. So that, you know, the ending turned out really good. They were able to secure their house, and now he will have, you know, future business from me.
Gotcha. Earned through the operational excellence of at least getting that part done. And being coachable, apparently. You were able to talk about the guidelines and he didn't just shut you down.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Karmen, you have an example of something where it went really well?
Sure. I think most of my deals go really well for the most part because I partner with loan officers who know their craft. They specialize in VA, and I don't have very many issues. I will say if I do have issues, it's unfortunately usually on the retail side of things, and then we have to get a little fancy with some of our underwriting and ask for lots of exceptions on things. But one in particular, I had a veteran, active military, who was overpaid on his bonus and had to repay $15,000. But in addition to that, in order for them to qualify for the mortgage, they still, in addition to paying off that debt, they also had to pay off a car loan. And so we needed to come up with about $20,000. And it was that ROV situation. So we had to offer more than list price. It didn't appraise. Seller was not willing to come down in price, so we did the ROV, we got the price up. Seller was willing to cover all the concessions with the escalated price. So when the buyer wrote the letter and said, I need this to happen, this wasn't my error on this overpayment of this bonus, reenlistment bonus, RLC signed off on it, and they won, seller won, I won, loan officer won. It worked out, it was great.
It's fantastic. So check out at closing to pay off that back debt? That's fantastic. Nice. Matt, for you, I'm going to pivot, right? I'm not even going to ask you a positive example because you're just so positive. We're talking to a lot of agents, real estate agents are in the room, but there's also the brokers. And I want to build a business. I want to connect, at least try to connect with an agent and be about VA. How do you do it?
So I think you want to differentiate yourself from everybody else, especially now because people are going to be reaching out, like crazy to different agents. And so it's really, not saying the same exact thing as everybody else. So everyone's going to say that they can close fast and they have great rates, right? No one is going to say they have terrible rates and they're slow, right? So bringing value, other than, if you don't have buyers to bring to agents, is bringing other values. So updates on the VA handbook or the circulars, and then other things that can help win them deals, like the pest inspection being able to be paid by the veteran. That's a small thing, it's probably about $100, but some sellers will not want to accept a VA loan because of that small fee, right? So I think giving them some ammunition to win deals or make better offers, really helps out gain their trust.
I think, Karmen, you said something about the last thing you're going to do is have coffee again with anybody. Like I have no time for any more coffee. Yeah. So how should I contact you? Let's talk about me, right? I'm going to contact you and try to earn your business. What in the world am I supposed to do to at least get your attention?
Yeah, I should probably clarify. I will have coffee if I'm not paying for it. That's great.
That's a RESPA violation, so we won't do that.
Yeah. Or Starbucks gift cards. That's fine. I'll take those too. I will do the coffee. But I don't want to always just be hounded for business. What I appreciate, and one of the things that I love about one of the loan officers that I work with a lot is that one of the things I do every year is a stocking stuffer giveaway for our military base. So I'll buy a whole bunch of stuff, we'll like stocking stuff for quality, like dollar store stuff. But we'll stuff all these stockings and we'll donate them to military families. And he'll actually come over and help stock that stuff. And it takes hours. It's like a full day of just stocking all of this, and he'll do it. And he'll spend that time. And I appreciate that. And then that builds that relationship, that time together. He's also helped me with, I volunteer with the Habitat for Humanity's Veterans Build program in my area. And so he'll come help me on Saturdays every once in a while and do that. He'll give me his time. I don't need his money. I don't need more coffee. I love more coffee. I don't need it. I want to know that he cares and wants to be a part of the community that I appreciate and value so much. And so that time it's valuable to me.
Show up and be there.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Sam, same question.
How do they earn my business?
Yeah, how do I even make contact with you?
When lenders make contact with me, they're the same. I think they have this thing about, hey, do you want to meet for coffee so we can chat and I can tell you about what I have to offer. 99% of the time, y'all have all the same products, okay? You might not have one or two because your bank doesn't, or your company doesn't allow it, but there's not really much that you're gonna have different besides you being you. I like for people to be themselves. I don't want you to try to sell me on trying to do business with you. Just be original. I like for people to own up to mistakes when they make them. If they know they made a mistake, own up to it, and we can keep it moving. When you don't own up to that mistake, then we have a problem. Yeah, just being you. I mean, if they reach out to me and I feel like they're worth, working with, or if I read about them or see something about them doing good in the community, I'll give them a chance.
Very good. Kind of want to do this, so I'm just going to ask, are there any questions? Yes, sir. I'll repeat it.
Can you give us an example of probably your most recent cold call from a loan officer and called you asking to meet, but you said yes because it stood out?
Okay, so the question is, can you give us an example of your most recent cold call where a loan officer called you to meet, to connect, and you actually said yes because they stood out?
Yeah, okay.
Great. Okay.
Okay. Yes, so I had a call probably, it's been like a year, but he was very sweet. He was very nervous, and he was a veteran. He had just gotten out of the Army, and just got his loan officer's license, and he wanted to know what he was supposed to do, where he should go, what am I doing, what can I help with, and how can I be of service to him? And for me, somebody who likes to give all the time, that was awesome. I thought that was fantastic. I've done a deal with him since then. He brought me the client, which, and there's some hiccups because he was newer, but it was stuff that we handled behind the scenes. It was nothing that the buyer saw, and I really appreciated that. So, yeah, if you approach a real estate agent that knows VA stuff with a question, they're probably really going to like that because you knew who to call to ask.
Interesting. Sam?
For me, I did have one recently. One thing with the VA loans is a lot of the lenders are not doing VA construction. And he is a local bank in the city of Dallas, and he was like, I see you do a lot with veterans. I wanted to tell you about our VA construction loan project. Will you meet with me? And of course, my light bulb went off, and I was like, yes, I'll meet with you. But he was, very genuine in the conversation. It wasn't a sales pitch. He was just like, I know that you have your lenders that you work with currently, but we have a product that you might not be able to have accessibility to. So we met.
So, okay, product mix was a good one. Matt, what about you? Have you made that call and had success?
Yeah, I've made some of those calls. A cold call most of the times is not going to end up in success, right? So a lot of it is just getting on the phone and making those calls, even though, all the times it doesn't work out, does kind of suck. But I think just sticking with it, being persistent, and then also as a broker, I think we have a big opportunity in handling buyers that are not quite ready to buy just yet, or have been turned down by a retail lender because of overlays, right? So trying to figure out how you can assist the agent with some of those that wouldn't, be able to purchase right now, that maybe you can find something, at this moment or maybe further down the line.
Very good.
Can I add something? to that?
Absolutely. You may.
Please don't have your virtual assistant call on RoboDial 970 times a week, because it's not going to happen, and I'm probably going to report you. Thank you.
I always love your candor. Thank you. I mean, that's beautiful, right? If you don't have time to make the call, why would I have time to build a relationship?
I want to work with you. I don't necessarily care about the company.
Let's talk about that. How do I get to know you? You brought up somebody who's volunteering. I've gotten to know you all because of our mutual community building together. Matt, I'm going to start with you. Like, how do you get to know somebody before you even try to do business with that person?
I think just, having a good conversation with them and kind of learning what their interests are, maybe outside of mortgages or real estate, finding some common ground, kind of similar to when you're talking to, a buyer, just on the phone, right? Not doing everything just business, but, trying to find out what, their family life or their different interests are, and, having some common ground with them. And sometimes you're not gonna have, anything in common, and that's fine. Maybe you guys aren't the right fit, but someone else will be.
Interesting. I mean, you shared yours about volunteering, but is there anything like, how do you find out?
Well, you have to find that first, you have to make that first connection. And I have a certain personality, and I don't meet everybody's, whatever. That's fine, but I'd rather find that out right away. And so that's why I don't mind the coffee thing. I just don't want to be inundated. It's like the go-to is coffee.
Right.
But video, guys, do video. If I'm seeing your stuff on YouTube, or if I'm coming across it because we're Facebook friends and you're doing all this video, I know your personality before I ever meet you, and that really is important. Do it. Just do the video.
Do the video.
Yeah, now I need to take my own advice. Go do the video.
Right. I was going to turn it on you, but I won't.
Or have really good memes.
Really good memes. A meme game is, it's really good. Sam, what about you? How do you get to know them?
Kind of the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you're all saying but not saying is Facebook stalking is appropriate and the way to
It
get through
is.
it, right? Start to find that commonality. Absolutely awesome. So any last thoughts, takeaways, anything that you were that we didn't talk about, anything you want to repeat as something as the whole group can kind of write down and move on with? Thank you for having notes ready.
I don't know. I wrote it down because I'm nervous. Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Sam, you want to start?
My takeaways would be for you guys is when you're working with a real estate agent, just be upfront when you mess up, right? We all mess up. I've messed up in transactions. I owned up to my mistakes. I've had to pay for stuff. Just own up to it. We appreciate that more than anything.
That's good.
Be willing to take the hard files. That was the last thing I wrote down. It was something you said on the first panel that you did. Be willing to take the hard files, the ones that take months to do, because they're worth it. Those people are going to love you forever. They're going to refer you. They're going to give you the reviews on all your social media platforms. Be willing to take those. Put the time in. Put the effort in. They earned it. And I feel like the least we can do as professionals is to stay with them and guide them through that process and get them to the finish line, help them.
Fantastic.
I would say don't be afraid of manual underwrites, because those are really not very difficult with VA, especially. And the handbook is there, accessible to every single person. And so you can go over that, comb through that and find ways to make things work, for the veterans. And also learning the different, lender overlays or lack thereof that coincides with the handbook, so you can find a solution for every single veteran buyer.
My last question for you. Is there any other product, you mentioned construction, is there any other product that you need to know more about for VA borrowers or for just your own book of business that these brokers should be aware of or be looking for?
Yes, definitely. VA rehab loans and VA construction are two of the biggest products out there that we don't have enough lenders versed in it, and it can be used to assist these buyers with getting into properties that they probably wouldn't ever think to get into because it looks like crap.
Karmen, what about for you?
Yeah, So in my area especially, the cost of housing is unbelievably expensive compared to what BAH is. We're about $500 a month short. Just in BAH, that's not even including utilities. And so a lot of people are wanting to buy a fixer-upper, but the MPRs aren't going to let it happen. And there's only so many exceptions you're going to be able to ask for on some of these properties. And that rehab loan is going to be critical in my area.
Perfect. Matt, anything you're hearing? Products you should know besides manual?
Yeah, I think the rehab loans as well as one-time close, I think that's a good one to learn as well. Now with one-time close, sometimes the VA version of that doesn't always make sense. So make sure, like with any other loan program, looking at all the options and then deciding on which one makes the most sense for the buyer.
Perfect. So brokers, loan officers, look around the room real quick. Real estate agents, raise your hands if you're in the room. Raise your hands proud, don't be shy. I see a few of y'all. Good, good. Loan officers, go talk to them, ask them these questions. These questions, it's an open dialogue. I have not once offended y'all by asking you what you wanted or what you thought, right? And that's an open dialogue conversation to build trust and relationship. So thank you all so much for being on this panel. Make sure you catch them and ask questions as well, follow up. But